The Galactic Security Council had protocols for everything. Protocols for rogue AI, protocols for dimensional breaches, protocols for solar collapse. But nowhere in their 10,000-page manual did it mention what to do. When 3 Vrakan predator cubs decided the sterile white corridors of Station Kepler 7 were their personal hunting grounds, Commander Thales' secondary hearts were pounding, arrhythmically as he watched the security feeds. The cubs, each the size of a human child but with midnight black scales, retractable claws that could shred durasteel, and bioluminescent eyes that tracked movement in darkness, were currently terrorizing Level 3. 2 junior officers had already been sent to the medical bay with minor lacerations. Not from attacks, Thales noted grimly, but from panicked retreats that ended in collision with bulkheads. "Where's their handler?" Thales demanded, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "The Vrakan ambassador is in emergency stasis," his aide reported, her antennae drooping.
"Some kind of metabolic shock from the atmosphere regulators."
"Medical says 6 hours minimum, 6 hours." The cubs had been loose for 20 minutes and had already caused 17 security alerts. Thales' species, the Krell, were renowned across 40 systems as fearless warriors. He had faced down pirates, insurgents, and once even a malfunctioning war mech. But these cubs operated on pure instinct and infinite energy, a combination that made tactical response nearly impossible. "Initiate containment protocol Sigma-4, he ordered. The response was immediate. Blast doors began sealing sections of the station. Stun fields activated. 3 full security teams moved into position, armed with nets and tranquilizer systems calibrated for Vrakan physiology. It was a disaster. The cubs thought it was a game. They scattered in 3 directions, their young bodies moving with a speed that evolution had honed over millions of years. One leaped straight up, claws finding purchase in the ceiling panels, scurrying through the ventilation system. Another simply barreled through the stun field, its juvenile nervous system apparently too chaotic for the field to lock onto, and sent 2 security officers sprawling. The third, the smallest one, sat down in the middle of the corridor and began to howl. The sound was glass against metal, primal and piercing, echoing through every speaker on the station. Thales' translator rendered it as distress, confusion, fear. They were children. Dangerous scale-armored children, but children nonetheless. "And they were scared." "Stand down," he said quietly. "We're making it worse." That's when Leora walked around the corner. She wasn't supposed to be on Level 3. The xenobiology consultant had been cleared for Levels 1 and 2 only. Her human credentials were impressive, but the council remained cautious about granting full access to newcomers. Yet here she was, wearing her standard-issue jumpsuit and those scuffed brown boots she never seemed to replace. Carrying a datapad and looking mildly annoyed at the chaos, the smallest cub, Shrek, according to the manifest, spotted her first. His howling cut off mid-note. Those luminescent eyes, currently cycling through orange and yellow in agitation, fixed on the human. "Oh, come on," Leora said. Not to the cub, but apparently to the universe in general. "Really?" Shrek took 3 tentative steps toward her, claws clicking on the deck plating. His sibling dropped from the ceiling behind her with a metallic thud. The third materialized from a side corridor, scales rippling with adrenaline. 3 apex predators, 1 human. Every security protocol screamed for intervention. Thale opened his mouth to order suppressing fire. "Don't," Leora said, somehow sensing the command before it came. She didn't turn toward the security cameras. Her eyes remained on the cubs. "Just don't." The cubs were circling now, a behavior that Thales' tactical training recognized as pre-hunt coordination. His hand moved toward the emergency stun button. Then the largest cub roared. It was meant to be intimidating, a juvenile's imitation of adult threat display. On the security feed, Thales saw 2 officers take involuntary steps backward. Leora didn't move. She just looked at the cub. Really looked at it. And then, in a voice that wasn't loud but somehow filled every centimeter of the corridor, she said, "Enough." The effect was instantaneous. The roaring stopped. 3 pairs of luminescent eyes went from orange-yellow to a confused blue-green. Ears that had been flattened in aggression slowly swiveled forward. "That's what I thought," Leora said, her tone softening just slightly. She crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "You're not hunting. You're scared, I get it. Big station, strange smells, your guardian's gone. It's overwhelming. Shrek made a sound, not quite a purr, but something that trembled on the edge of contentment. He moved forward, still cautious, and pressed his scaled head against her knee. "There you go," she murmured. "Not so scary, is it?" One by one, the other cubs approached. Within 30 seconds, all three were clustered around her. Shrek had curled himself directly beside her boots, his tail wrapped around her ankle in what Thala's database identified as a bonding behavior. "Someone want to explain how a human just did that?" Thale asked the room at large. His aide was already pulling up Leora's file. "Sir, her background. She grew up on Earth's northern preserve. Worked with animals called wolves and big cats before entering xenobiology. Her psychological profile mentioned something about calm assertiveness and pack dynamics. Pack dynamics. The Vraken weren't pack hunters, they were ambush predators. But young Vraken apparently still responded to hierarchical cues. And somehow this human had just established herself as the hierarchy. On the screen, Leora was standing now, the cubs following her like she'd activated some kind of magnetic field. She walked calmly toward the temporary holding area that had been prepared for the ambassador's entourage, and the cubs simply followed. "Security teams, stand down," Thale ordered. "Maintain observation distance only." As Leora led the cubs into the holding area, a space outfitted with environmental controls matching their homeworld, Shrek looked back once, his scales shimmering with what the database identified as contentment. Then he settled beside Leora's boots again, and his siblings joined him. The human sat down on the floor, apparently content to wait there until the ambassador recovered. "Remarkable," Thale's aide whispered. He had to agree. In all his years commanding station security, he'd never seen anything quite like it. The Vraken were fearsome. Their cubs were chaos incarnate. But this one human with her quiet voice and scuffed boots had walked through fire and made it sit down. Perhaps, Thale thought, the Council's protocols needed an addendum after all. He made a note. When all else fails, call the human. It seemed absurd. It defied tactical logic. But as he watched Leora absently scratch behind Shrek's ear ridges while the cub purred like malfunctioning machinery, Thale couldn't deny the evidence before him. Humanity hadn't conquered the stars through superior firepower or advanced technology. They'd done it through something far more inexplicable. The ability to look at the universe's most dangerous creatures and somehow convince them that everything would be okay. And sometimes, that was enough.